Hey guys, tonight we are going to set aside our modern notions of romance and travel back to a time when love, dating, and marriage were a completely different game. We'll be peering through the keyhole into the closely guarded world of medieval courtship, where a single glance could be a scandal and a marriage proposal looked a lot more like a business merger. You find yourself in a world without privacy, without dating apps, without any of the romantic scripts. If you think modern dating is tough because someone left you on read, just wait until you find out that in the Middle Ages, your marriage could be successfully negotiated in exchange for 2 goats and a well-drained acre of land. Your love life is about to get very agricultural. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always a pleasure to see who's tuning in, so feel free to post your location and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first and most important thing you must do is forget everything you think you know about finding a partner. Erase the concepts of romantic comedies, first dates, swiping right, and getting to know someone. In your medieval world, the idea of choosing a spouse based on romantic love, personal chemistry, or shared interests is seen as dangerously foolish, a childish fantasy that has no place in the serious business of life. Marriage is not the culmination of a romantic journey. It is the beginning of a practical partnership. Love is not the point. For almost everyone in your society, from the lowest peasant to the highest noble, marriage is not an optional lifestyle choice. It is the fundamental economic and social building block of the world. To remain unmarried is to be an anomaly, an incomplete person with a precarious and often difficult place in the community. The primary goal of your youth is not to fall in love and find your soulmate, but to secure a suitable match, an arrangement that will guarantee your physical survival and advance your family's standing in the world. Your value as a potential spouse is not measured by your sense of humor or your sparkling personality. It is measured in much more tangible assets. If you are a peasant, your world of courtship is one of profound and earthy pragmatism. Let's say you are a young man who has inherited a few meager strips of land from your father. Your family begins to look for a wife for you. What are they looking for? They are looking at the neighboring families. One such family has a daughter of a suitable age, and crucially, their land adjoins yours. A marriage would unite these properties, creating a single, more viable farm that is easier to plow and manage. This is a good match. Or perhaps you are a strong young man with no land of your own. Your greatest asset is your health and your capacity for hard work. A nearby widow whose husband died and left her with land but no one to work it, is in need of a new husband. Your strength combined with her property creates a functional, economically sound household. This, too, is a good match. Your online dating profile would read, sturdy, possesses all original teeth, owns a pig that is not currently sick. You'd get a lot of matches, or at least your father would, on your behalf. For a young peasant woman, the calculation is similar. Her value lies in her dowry, not a chest of gold, but the practical goods her family can provide to help establish the new home. Her dowry might be a healthy milk cow, a few chickens, a good iron cooking pot, or a set of hand-spun linen sheets. These are not trivial items. They are foundational assets for a new family. Beyond her dowry, her worth is in her health, her strong back, wide hips that suggest she will survive the ordeal of childbirth, and her reputation as a hard worker, skilled in the essential domestic arts of brewing, baking, and spinning. Thinking you should be in love with the person you marry is like thinking you should be in love with your plow horse. It would be nice, and it might happen, but the main thing is that it does the job. Love, if it comes at all, is expected to be a quiet and sturdy affection that grows over years of shared labor, shared hardships, and the shared goal of keeping your children alive. It is a byproduct of the partnership, not its foundation. Now, if you are a member of the nobility, the stakes are infinitely higher, and the role of personal affection is even smaller. Your marriage is a political and strategic tool. You are a pawn in your family's grand game of power and influence. As the daughter of a powerful baron, your hand in marriage can be used to seal a peace treaty with a rival family, ending a generation of bloodshed. It can forge a new military alliance, securing knights and soldiers for a future conflict. It can unite two vast estates, creating a political bloc that could challenge the authority of a duke or even the king. Your personal feelings for your future husband are not even a secondary consideration. They are completely and utterly irrelevant. The primary and often sole duty of a noble wife is to produce a legitimate male heir. Her fertility is her greatest political asset. The continuation of a powerful bloodline, the securing of a dynasty, these are the goals of a noble marriage. Love has no place in these cold, strategic calculations. This practical, transactional approach to marriage doesn't mean it was an unregulated free-for-all. The church played a central and ever-increasing role. As a mainstream historical development, beginning in the 12th century, the church began to formalize marriage as a holy sacrament. It decreed that a valid marriage required the free and public consent of both the man and the woman, and it instituted the practice of publishing the banns, announcing an intended marriage in church for 3 consecutive Sundays to allow any objections to be raised. In theory, this gave you a voice, a right to say no. In reality, to refuse a match arranged by your family, a match upon which their fortune and future depended, would require a level of personal rebellion almost impossible to imagine. The social, economic, and familial pressure to consent would be overwhelming. In the more complex world of towns and cities, families might even employ the services of a quirky professional, the marriage broker. This matchmaker, often an older, well-connected woman, would act as a go-between, identifying suitable partners for her client's children and negotiating the complex financial details of the dowry and marriage contract on their behalf. Historians, reading the dry, transactional marriage contracts and legal documents of the period, continue to debate the true emotional landscape of these arrangements. Do these documents tell the whole story? Or do the surviving poems and the occasional passionate letter that have come down to us suggest that romantic love, while not a prerequisite for marriage, was a more common and deeply valued part of medieval life than the official records suggest? It is a debate about whether the human heart could ever truly be suppressed by such practical concerns. For you, in your youth, the reality is simple. There is no dating. There is no romance. There is only the slow, careful, and deeply serious process of your family arranging the most important economic partnership of your life. You might catch a glimpse of your intended spouse at church, a fleeting, supervised moment of eye contact across the aisle. But your first real conversation might not happen until after the vows have been said. Your life is about to be bound to a near stranger. Your hope is not for passion, but for a partner who is a decent, hard-working person who will not be cruel and with whom you can build a life and survive the hardships of the world together. The knowledge that your future marriage will be a practical arrangement, not a romantic one, is a simple, accepted fact of your life. But now we must move from this abstract understanding and into the room where the deal is actually made. You must witness the cold, hard, and deeply unromantic process of the transaction itself. The moment when your future is negotiated like a business deal, your value measured in livestock, land, and strategic advantage. Let us first enter the world of the peasantry. You are a young man, and your father has decided it is time for you to marry. He has identified a suitable family, one with a daughter of the right age and a good reputation. The negotiation does not take place in a formal setting. It might happen over a wooden stile between two fields, or on rough-hewn benches in your family's small, smoky cottage. You are not present. Your future spouse is not present. This is a conversation between two patriarchs, two seasoned and wary businessmen hammering out the most important deal of the year. Your father is negotiating your marriage. It's like a high-stakes fantasy football draft, but instead of trading players, he's trading you for a cow and a promise not to let his sheep wander into your field. You listen from a distance as they begin. The language is blunt and practical. The other girl's father might start. Your son is a good worker, I'll grant you that. But the soil on his inherited strips is stony. Your father might retort. He is strong and sober and knows how to reshoe a horse. Your daughter is healthy. But what of her dowry? And so the bargaining begins. The dowry, a mainstream historical institution, is the wealth that the bride's family gives to the new couple to help establish their household. This is the central point of the negotiation. Her father offers a milk cow. Your father inspects the cow, checks its teeth, and declares it to be old. Her father adds a dozen chickens to the deal. Your father counters, asking for the family's good iron cauldron as well. The haggling goes back and forth. Every asset is evaluated with a critical eye. The quality of a family's roof, a sign that they are not lazy and can keep the rain out, is a tangible asset. A daughter's skill at spinning a fine, strong thread is a measurable economic advantage. The negotiation is not limited to movable goods. Land is the ultimate currency. Perhaps the most attractive part of this match is that the bride's family holds the strips of land in the common field that lie directly adjacent to yours. The contract, which will be a verbal agreement witnessed by the village elder or priest, will stipulate that these strips will be farmed together, creating a larger, more efficient plot. This consolidation is the real prize. After much back and forth, a deal is struck. Your future is sealed with a firm, calloused handshake. You will marry the girl from the neighboring farm. In exchange for your strength and land, her family will provide a dowry of 1 old cow, 6 chickens, a second-best cooking pot, and their 3 strips in the north field. It is a good, solid, sensible deal that will benefit both families. Now let us ascend to the world of the nobility, where the stakes are infinitely higher and the transaction is colder still. You are the daughter of a powerful duke. You have barely met the man you are to marry, a distant earl whose lands border a disputed territory. The negotiation is conducted not by your father in person, but through a series of formal letters carried by messengers on horseback between your 2 castles. These letters are penned by clerks, full of flowery language about honor, alliance, and mutual respect, but the content is pure strategy. The marriage contract for a noble is 50 pages long and mostly discusses who gets which castle if someone dies, The word love appears 0 times. The word fortification appears 17 times. Your dowry is not a cow. It is a strategic castle, 3 villages, and the vast tracts of forest that come with them. In exchange for this, the Earl's family will pledge 100 knights to your father's service in his next war. Your marriage is a key move on a great political chessboard, a living seal on a military and political treaty. Before the contract is finalized, your personal value must be assessed. You are subjected to a quiet but thorough physical examination by the women of the Earl's family, his mother and sisters. They are assessing your health, the straightness of your back, the width of your hips. They are estimating your value as breeding stock, your potential for producing the all-important male heir. Your virtue and your reputation for piety and obedience are your greatest assets. In some cultural traditions, the transaction includes another quirky but significant element, a holdover from ancient Germanic law, the morning gift, or Morgengate. This was a payment or a grant of property made by the groom directly to the bride on the morning after the wedding was consummated. It was both a confirmation that the marriage was now physically binding and a form of financial security for the bride herself. Once the terms are agreed upon, whether for your peasant union or the noble alliance, a formal betrothal ceremony takes place. This is not a casual engagement. It is a legally binding contract. You are brought to the church porch, and in the presence of your families, you exchange formal vows. This might be the very first time you have stood close to your future spouse. You are both nervous, your eyes cast downwards, reciting the words your parents have instructed you to say. You exchange a token, perhaps a ring, and the priest blesses the union. You are now affianced. To break this contract would bring shame and a potential lawsuit or even a feud upon your families. You meet your future wife for the first time. You're both under strict orders from your parents not to say anything stupid and ruin the deal. It's the most romantic and high-pressure 10 minutes of your life. This process of negotiation, a practice that seems so cold to a modern mind, was the very bedrock of social stability. It ensured that resources were pooled, that households were economically viable, and that alliances were maintained. However, legal historians continue to debate the true agency of women within these transactions. Were they particularly noble women, purely passive pawns in their father's games? Their consent a mere formality? Or did they, through their mothers, their confessors, or other trusted intermediaries, manage to exert a subtle, behind-the-scenes influence, perhaps steering the negotiations away from a particularly old or cruel suitor and towards a more desirable one? The documents are mostly silent on this, written by men and for men. For you, standing on the church porch, these debates are irrelevant. Your future has been decided. A transaction has been completed. Your life bartered for a handful of chickens or a strategic castle. The person standing beside you is a stranger, and yet they are now the most important person in your world. Your task is not to fall in love with them, but to learn to work with them, to build a life with them, and to survive alongside them. The handshake is done. The contract is sealed. Your future has been decided in a cold, hard transaction of land and livestock. Your marriage will be a partnership built on a foundation of practicality, a fortress designed to withstand the harsh realities of the world. But while your public life is being locked into this rigid structure, a secret, parallel world of emotion is flourishing within the stone walls of the great castles. It is a world that has almost nothing to do with marriage, and everything to do with a new and fashionable invention called love. Welcome to the elaborate, performative, and deeply confusing game of courtly love. This is a concept that belongs exclusively to you, the nobility. While the peasants are concerned with the number of goats in a dowry, you and your peers are busy constructing an elaborate and beautiful fantasy of romantic devotion. Courtly love, or finamore as the poets call it, is not a path to the altar. In fact, its entire code is built on the thrilling, agonizing fact that it can never be fulfilled. It is a highly ritualized game of unrequited affection, poetic suffering, and dramatic gestures, usually directed at someone who is already married, and very often married to your own lord and master. Courtly love is basically having a huge, dramatic, unrequited crush, but making it into a competitive sport with poetry. It's the medieval version of writing sad songs on a guitar about someone who doesn't know you exist. You are a young, unmarried knight in the service of a powerful duke. Your own marriage, when it happens, will be an arrangement to secure a minor piece of land. But your heart, your poetic soul, belongs to another. The Duchess, your lord's beautiful, elegant, and utterly unattainable wife. The number one rule of courtly love is that you must be in love with someone you absolutely cannot have, preferably your boss's wife. It makes office politics in the castle very, very interesting. The Duchess is your chosen lady, and you are now her humble, secret servant. Your goal is not to win her in any physical sense. To do so would be adultery, a mortal sin, and a treasonous act that would surely lead to your execution. No, your goal is to become a better man for her. The very fact of her existence, the distant hope of winning her admiration, inspires you to be more chivalrous. You become braver in tournaments, more pious in church, more courteous at the high table, and more eloquent in your speech, all in the faint hope that she might notice your virtuous suffering. The main symptom of courtly love is looking pale and sighing a lot. You're supposed to look like you're dying of a tragic illness, when in fact you're just dying for a bit of attention. It's very dramatic. This poetic suffering is a key part of the performance. You are expected to lose your appetite, to spend sleepless nights composing terrible poetry about the twin stars of her eyes, and to sigh with the deep, mournful sound of a man carrying the weight of a beautiful and impossible love. The game is played out in the public space of the Great Hall, through a language of subtle, coded gestures. A single, lingering glance held for a moment too long across the crowded room is a declaration. A blush on the lady's cheek is a response. At the tournament, you will tie her favor, a ribbon or a silk scarf she has given you, to your lance or helmet, publicly dedicating your violent deeds to her honor. The entire court sees and understands this language. It is a secret that everyone is in on. This entire tradition was born and nurtured in the courts of southern France, in the region of Occitania, and spread by the poet-musicians known as the troubadours. This is a mainstream historical fact. These troubadours, some of whom were powerful nobles themselves, created a vast body of literature and song that laid out the rules and ideals of finamore. Great patrons, most famously the powerful and intelligent Eleanor of Aquitaine, championed these ideas, and her court became a glittering center for this new romantic culture. In this world, the lady holds all the power. She is the master, the distant, perfect object of adoration. She might test her suitor's devotion, demanding he undertake a perilous quest or perform some great feat of arms. In the more literary and whimsical expressions of this tradition, a quirky and fascinating phenomenon known as the courts of love was said to exist. At these gatherings, a high-born lady, like Eleanor's own daughter Marie de Champagne, would preside as a judge. A panel of noble women would hear arguments about complex, hypothetical romantic dilemmas. Can true love exist between married people? What is a greater betrayal, infidelity of the heart or of the body? And they would issue a formal ruling based on the intricate codes of courtly love. But this entire elaborate structure raises a question that historians have debated for generations. Was courtly love a genuine social practice, a set of rules that actually guided the romantic behavior of medieval nobles? Or was it a purely literary phenomenon, a fantasy, a set of tropes and conventions that existed only in the poems and romances of the time, with little to no bearing on how people actually lived and loved? Was anyone really doing this, or were they just enjoying the stories about it? The truth is likely a complex mixture. The most extreme, melodramatic aspects of courtly love probably belong to the world of fiction. But the underlying principles, the idea of ennobling love, the language of service and devotion, the importance of discretion, almost certainly influenced the way the aristocracy thought and spoke about emotion. It provided a necessary outlet, a cultural space to explore the powerful feelings of love and desire that were so brutally excluded from the transactional reality of their arranged marriages. It was a beautiful, necessary, and ultimately safe fantasy, a game whose most important rule was that it must never become real. For you, the young knight, your secret love for the Duchess gives your life a noble purpose and a poetic meaning, even as you know that your practical future lies with the land-rich, sensible, and entirely unromantic daughter of a neighboring baron. The game of courtly love you are now playing is a silent and subtle one, a dangerous ballet of longing glances and poetic sighs. But in a world without private conversations, a world where you are almost never alone with the object of your affection, you need a way to make your feelings more tangible. You cannot send a text message or a private note. Instead, you must rely on the secret, coded language of objects. You must learn to speak through the giving and receiving of tokens, the risky, silent texts of the medieval world. These tokens are everyday items, imbued with a powerful, hidden meaning through the context of their exchange. Their very ordinariness is what makes them safe. A gifted ribbon is your version of a risky late-night text. It's thrilling, deniable, and could absolutely blow up in your face. The main difference is you can't blame it on autocorrect. Let us imagine you are at a tournament, the most public and theatrical display of the chivalric world. This is where the most open form of token giving takes place. You are a knight preparing to compete in the joust. Your chosen lady, the merry duchess who inspires your every deed, is watching from the stands. Before your first pass, she might signal to you. She removes a silk scarf from her sleeve or a ribbon from her hair, her favor, and has a page deliver it to you. This is a mainstream historical practice, a central part of the tournament's pageantry. You accept the favor with a reverent bow and tie it to your helmet or your lance. This is a public secret. Everyone in the stands sees the exchange. Her husband, your lord, sees it. He is not angered. He is honored. His wife is so beautiful and virtuous that she inspires such devotion in his knights. The favor is not a sign of adulterous intent. It is a symbol of your noble inspiration. You are not fighting for her hand. You are fighting for her honor, and, by extension, the honor of her husband. It is a complex and highly ritualized performance that allows you to publicly declare your devotion in a way that is socially acceptable and safe. But most communication is far more subtle and dangerous. Let us move from the tournament field to the castle courtyard. You are standing with a group of other knights. Your lady walks past with her attendants. As she passes you, her glove accidentally slips from her hand and falls to the ground at your feet. The world seems to hold its breath for a moment. This is a test. Her attendants watch. Your fellow knights watch. What do? She dropped her glove. This could mean, I am secretly devoted to you and wish you to be my champion. Or it could mean, oops, I dropped my glove. The fate of your entire romantic future depends on you guessing correctly. No pressure. You could simply bend down, pick it up, and return it to her with a polite, neutral bow. This is the safe option. No message sent, no message received. Or you could perform a more daring move. You retrieve the glove, but before you hand it back, you press it to your lips or your heart for a single, fleeting second. This is a dangerous acknowledgement. You have accepted the gesture and returned it, signaling that you understand and reciprocate the coded affection. It is a thrilling, heart-pounding moment that could be the beginning of a long and secret emotional affair. Or, most daring of all, you could pick up the glove and keep it. You give her a meaningful look and discreetly tuck the glove into your own belt. This is a bold and almost reckless move, a declaration that you will treasure this piece of her as a secret token. It is an act that could lead to great favor or to a swift and brutal reprimand from her husband if your intentions are misread. This entire language of objects is built on a foundation of plausible deniability. It is a system designed to protect reputations. But this ambiguity is also what makes it so fraught with peril. A misinterpretation, a signal read where none was intended, could lead to public humiliation or worse. Sometimes, the tokens are more direct, exchanged not in a public space, but through a trusted intermediary, a loyal lady-in-waiting or a discreet servant. These are often gifts that have been made, not just dropped. A particularly quirky and charming example of this is the tradition of the Welsh love spoon. While the craft reached its artistic peak in later centuries, its medieval roots are in this world of romantic tokens. You, a young man, might spend weeks in your spare time carefully carving a single piece of wood into an ornate spoon. You carve symbols into the handle, a heart for love, a key and keyhole to signify, my home is yours, a wheel to promise that you will work hard for her. For your birthday, your secret admirer gives you a spoon. This is considered wildly romantic. It's a much better gift than a turnip, which is what your actual betrothed gave you last week. The spoon is then delivered to the young woman you admire. It is a declaration of your affection and a showcase of your skill as a craftsman, a sign that you would be a good and productive husband. Historians and literary scholars continue to debate the grammar of this language of tokens. Was there a widely understood and consistent code, where a glove always meant one thing and a ribbon always meant another? Or was the meaning entirely fluid, a secret language invented by each individual couple, dependent on the specific context of their relationship and the interpretation of the moment? The reality is likely a mix of both, some common, well-understood gestures, and many more private, personal symbols. The object itself is less important than the silent story it tells. A single flower, a carved pin, a girdle from a lady's waist given to a knight. Each one is a chapter in a secret narrative. They are the physical evidence of an emotion that cannot be spoken aloud, a tangible link between two people who are forced to live their passions in the shadows. Each token is a risk, a hope, and a silent, desperate message passed from one hand to another in a world that is always watching. The secret language of tokens, the dropped glove, the gifted ribbon, is a testament to your ingenuity, a clever and coded way to express the unspeakable. But why was such a silent and dangerous language necessary? Why couldn't you simply speak your heart? The answer is simple and suffocating, because you are never, ever alone. Every move you make, every word you whisper, every glance you share is subject to the relentless, unending scrutiny of the world around you. Welcome to a life of constant surveillance. The very concept of privacy, a principle your descendants will hold sacred, does not exist in your world. The idea of your own private room, a space to close the door on the world, is a luxury reserved for the richest of kings and the most secluded of hermits. Your concept of private time is a 5-minute walk to the village well where you're only being watched by 7 people instead of the usual 12. It's the little luxuries. Your life is lived in the open, in small, shared spaces where every action is a public performance. The very architecture of your life is designed to prevent privacy. If you are a peasant, your home is a single, open room. The entire family, parents, children, and perhaps an elderly grandparent, eats, works, socializes, and sleeps in this one space. There are no internal walls, no doors to close for a private conversation. A whispered secret in one corner is easily overheard in the other. If you are a noble, you may live in a vast castle, but it is just as public. The Great Hall is the bustling center of all activity, constantly filled with family members, knights, servants, and petitioners. Even in your own chambers, you are rarely alone. As a noble lady, you are perpetually surrounded by your ladies-in-waiting. They are your friends and confidants. Yes, but they are also your minders, your chaperones, your constant shadows. This constant observation comes from all directions. The first and most powerful layer of surveillance is your own family. Your parents are the primary guardians of your reputation, because your reputation is a vital family asset. A daughter's virtue and a son's good name are the currency they will use to negotiate a favorable marriage for you, a marriage that will secure the future of the entire family line. A whisper of scandal, a rumor of an unsupervised meeting, can tarnish this currency and ruin your prospects. Your mother's watchful eye misses nothing. Your father's stern presence is a constant reminder of your duty. The second layer is the community. In a small, tight-knit village, everyone knows everyone else, and everyone is deeply invested in everyone else's business. The village gossip network is more efficient than any modern social media platform. A scandalous rumor can travel from the mill to the bakery and be the subject of 3 different sermons by Sunday. There are no privacy settings. That young man and woman, seen talking for a moment too long behind the hayrick. The whole village will know about it before the sun sets, and their parents will be answering for it. This is not always malicious. It is a form of social control, a way the community enforces its shared moral code and protects itself from the instability that scandal can bring. The third and most powerful layer of surveillance is the church. Your village priest is the shepherd of your soul. and he takes his duty to guard against sin very seriously. He watches his flock for any signs of moral weakness, flirtatious glances during Mass, a couple wandering off together during a festival, any behavior that could lead to the mortal sin of fornication. The pulpit is his platform to condemn such behavior, and the confessional is his tool for uncovering it. The sacrament of confession, while a source of spiritual comfort, is also a profound instrument of surveillance, a direct line into the secret hearts and hidden deeds of the entire community. For you, a young noble woman, there is an additional dedicated agent of surveillance, the chaperone. Your chaperone has two main skills: embroidery and staring at you with the unblinking, judgmental gaze of a hawk. Her job is to ensure that the most exciting thing that happens between you and a young knight is a formal, supervised conversation about the weather. She is an older, respectable woman, a widowed aunt, a distant cousin, and her sole task is to be your constant companion in any situation where men might be present. She sits with you in the great hall. She walks with you in the gardens. She is a permanent, physical barrier between your virtue and the temptations of the world. This system, which seems so oppressive to a modern mind, is seen in your time as a necessary form of protection. In a world where a woman's entire future and that of her family can be determined by her chastity, this web of watchful eyes is a fortress built to defend her most valuable asset. It is a system designed to maintain the rigid social order and to ensure that the all-important transactions of marriage are not threatened by the chaotic and unpredictable force of individual desire. The very structure of your society, the mainstream historical concept of the household, a large unit of family, servants, and apprentices all living together, makes privacy a physical impossibility. Even the architecture of your most sacred spaces can reflect this culture of watching. A quirky but fascinating architectural feature in some churches is the squint hole, or hagioscope. This is a small, angled opening carved through a thick stone wall, allowing someone in a side chapel or an aisle to peer through and see the priest celebrating Mass at the high altar. While its purpose is religious, it is a perfect stone and mortar metaphor for your society, a world of oblique glances, of watching from the margins, of seeing without being seen. Of course, historians and sociologists continue to debate the true effectiveness of this vast system of surveillance. Did it genuinely suppress all unsanctioned relationships and enforce the strict moral code that the authorities intended? Or did it simply drive these desires further underground, creating a thriving and invisible subculture of secret notes, clandestine meetings in the deep of night, and passionate affairs that the official records and the watchful eyes of the community could never hope to capture? For you, the daily reality is one of extreme caution. You learn to speak in code, to communicate through a raised eyebrow or a subtle gesture. Every action is calculated, every word is weighed. The constant feeling of being watched becomes a normal part of your existence. It is the price you pay for your name, your honor, and your place in the unblinking, ever-watchful world of medieval society. The world is always watching. The eyes of your family, your community, and your church follow your every move, a suffocating net of constant surveillance designed to protect your virtue and the social order. In this world of zero privacy, a dropped glove or a gifted spoon is a risky but deniable whisper of affection. But what if you need to say more? What if the feelings you have are too complex? too passionate to be contained in a single silent gesture. You must then turn to the most intimate, the most eloquent, and by far the most dangerous form of communication available to you, the love letter. Writing a love letter is the medieval equivalent of sending a scandalous text and accidentally CCing the entire company. The potential for disaster is enormous, but you do it anyway. A glance can be misinterpreted. A token can be explained away as an accident. But a letter is a confession. It is a physical, tangible piece of evidence written in your own hand, a testament to a secret affair of the heart. If it were to be intercepted, your reputation, your marriage prospects, your family's honor, and your very safety could be utterly destroyed. This perilous art is a luxury of the literate. For the vast majority of your society, the peasantry who cannot read or write, a love letter is an impossibility. Their romances, as we will see, are conducted through practical deeds and spoken words. The secret written word belongs to the world of the nobility, the gentry, and the clergy, those who have had the privilege of an education. You are a young noblewoman, betrothed since childhood to a man you respect but do not love. And there is a knight at your father's court, a man whose valor in the tournament and quiet piety in the chapel have captured your heart. You cannot speak to him, not freely. So, by the flickering candlelight of your private chamber, with your ladies in waiting asleep, you commit the terrifying act of putting your feelings to parchment. The letter you write is not a simple, straightforward declaration. It is a work of art, a carefully constructed performance of the courtly love ideals we have discussed. Your love letter is 3 pages long and never once says what you actually mean. It's all metaphors about dying doves and cruel stars. It's less a declaration of love and more a creative writing assignment that could get you exiled. You do not write, "I think you are handsome." You write of the grievous wound his handsome countenance has dealt to your heart. You do not write, "I admire you." You write that you are his humble servant, and that his virtue is the sun that banishes the night of your sorrow. The language is deliberately poetic, allegorical, and heavy with the dramatic suffering that courtly love demands. This serves 2 purposes. First, it elevates your feelings, framing them as a pure, noble, and spiritual devotion rather than a base, physical desire. Second, it provides you with a fragile shield of plausible deniability. If the letter were discovered, you could, perhaps, argue that it was not a love letter at all, but merely a literary exercise, a poetical game. It is a slim defense, but it is the only one you have. To add another layer of secrecy, a quirky and clever writer might even embed a hidden message, like an acrostic, where the first letter of each line of a poem spells out the beloved's name, a secret visible only to the intended reader. The physical object itself is precious. You write on a smooth sheet of expensive parchment, the treated skin of a calf or sheep. With a quill pen you've sharpened yourself, using ink made from oak galls and iron salts. The script is careful and elegant. When you are done, you fold the parchment, perhaps tucking a single pressed flower within its folds, and seal it with a drop of colored wax, impressed with your personal signet ring. Now comes the most dangerous part of the entire enterprise: delivery. Your letter is a piece of social dynamite, and you cannot simply hand it to a common messenger. You must find a courier whose loyalty is absolute and whose movements will not arouse suspicion. Choosing your love letter courier is the most important decision you'll ever make. You need someone stealthy, trustworthy, and good at pretending they're just delivering a routine message about the price of hay. It's a very specific skill set. Your most trusted lady in waiting is a possibility, but her loyalty might be first to your father. A young page, a child, is a better option, as they can move through the castle often unnoticed, their innocence a perfect disguise. Perhaps the best and most surprising courier is a traveling monk or friar. As a man of God, a friar can often move between households and social classes with a freedom no one else possesses. A sympathetic confessor, bound by a sacred vow of secrecy, could be the perfect secret postman. The courier takes your letter and, at great personal risk, delivers it. The exchange is a moment of pure, silent theater. In the bustle of the great hall, or in a quiet corner of the chapel, the letter is passed, a folded secret slipped from one hand to another with a meaningful glance. The recipient, your knight, retreats to his own quarters to read it. By the light of a single candle, he breaks your wax seal and reads your dangerous, beautiful words. For him, this letter is both a trophy and a burden, a proof of his lady's favor that he must now guard with his life. This written correspondence, this secret conversation of souls, is the heart of the most famous and tragic love affair of the Middle Ages, the mainstream historical romance of Eloise and Abelard. The passionate, intelligent, and deeply personal letters exchanged between the brilliant 12th century theologian Peter Abelard and his gifted student Eloise remain a timeless testament to the power of the written word to capture a love that defied all the rules of their society. But these letters also reveal the terrible risks. The discovery of their affair and their secret marriage led to brutal retribution, to scandal, castration, and a lifetime of forced separation in a monastery and a convent. Literary historians continue to debate the nature of such letters. Were they genuine, spontaneous outpourings of a person's most private and authentic feelings? Or were they, too, a kind of performance, a literary exercise where the writer was more concerned with mastering the complex poetic conventions of the genre than with expressing a real and unfiltered emotion? For you, as you wait in an agony of suspense to see if your letter will be received, answered, or discovered, the distinction is meaningless. You have taken your heart, your reputation, and your future and folded them into a piece of parchment. You have thrown this fragile, hopeful, and deeply dangerous object out into the world, praying it finds its way to the right hands and not the wrong ones. The secret, ink-stained world of the love letter is a dangerous and private one, a privilege of the literate upper classes. But what about you? You are a peasant. You cannot read or write, and your life is a public performance lived under the constant, watchful eye of your family and neighbors. How, in this suffocating atmosphere of surveillance, do you ever get a chance to meet someone, to signal your interest, to engage in the simple, hopeful dance of courtship? For you, these opportunities are rare, precious, and confined to the sanctioned chaos of a village festival. Your year is a long, monotonous road of hard labor, its milestones marked by the relentless turning of the agricultural seasons. But this road is punctuated by a few glorious rest stops, the holy days and festivals that are dictated by the church and by ancient tradition. A mainstream historical fact of your world is the importance of these celebrations. May Day, with its cheerful maypole, Midsummer's Eve, with its great bonfires burning against the twilight, and most important of all, the harvest home, the joyous festival that marks the end of the harvest season, when all the grain is safely gathered in. These are not just days off. They are a vital pressure release valve for the community, a time for feasting, games, and, most crucially, a rare chance for supervised social interaction between the young and unmarried. Let us imagine you are at the Harvest Home Festival. The last sheaf of wheat has been brought in from the fields, and the entire village is gathered on the green. The air is alive with a festive energy that is absent for the rest of the year. You can smell meat roasting over a great fire, and the scent of fresh, strong ale being poured from barrels. A musician is playing a lively tune on a pipe and tabor, a simple drum and flute combination that provides an infectious, rhythmic beat. Everyone is wearing their best, and likely only, set of clean clothes. This is your brief, watched window of opportunity. For a few precious hours, the rigid rules of daily life are slightly relaxed. You are allowed to mingle, and the central activity, the primary arena for this mingling, is the dance. Dancing is your one chance to hold hands with someone you're not related to without causing a village-wide scandal. You make the most of it. The dances are fast, energetic, and mostly involve not tripping over a chicken. They are not the slow, intimate dances of a future time, but communal affairs, long, snaking line dances, or great, spinning circle dances where the entire village moves as one. But even within the communal dance, there are moments of personal connection. You see a young woman across the green, one you have perhaps admired from a distance at church. Now is your chance. You walk over to her, your heart pounding, and in a loud voice over the music, you ask for her hand in the next dance. This is a public act. Everyone sees her response, whether it is a shy smile and an acceptance or a polite refusal, is a public signal. If she accepts, you take your place in the dance together. You might hold her hand, her rough, calloused palm a match for your own. As the dance requires you to turn and weave, you might briefly place a hand on her waist. This fleeting, socially sanctioned physical contact is electric, a rare and thrilling communication in a world where such touch is otherwise forbidden. With the entire village as your audience, flirting is a subtle and high-stakes art. Flirting at the festival is a high-stakes game. You're trying to make meaningful eye contact with someone across a crowded green while your mother, their father, and the village priest are all watching. It's less romance and more romantic reconnaissance mission. Your language is not one of witty banter, but of the eyes. A shared smile as you pass each other in the line dance. A held gaze that lasts a second too long. A light-hearted laugh at a clumsy misstep. These are the small, deniable sparks from which a future match might be kindled. The festival also provides a stage for you to display your worth. Contests of strength and skill are a central part of the celebration. The Harvest Festival games are your chance to impress a potential partner. Your main skills are lifting a heavy thing, throwing a heavy thing, and wrestling another man who has also been lifting heavy things. It's the medieval Olympics. A wrestling match between the strongest young men of the village draws a huge crowd. To win is to earn not just bragging rights, but the admiration of the onlookers, including the very woman you just danced with. She might even be the one chosen to award the winner a prize, perhaps a ribbon or a garland of flowers, a public and perfectly acceptable version of the Noble Ladies Tournament. Favor. In some more raucous festivals, like those around Christmas time, The social order might be turned completely on its head with the appointment of a quirky and beloved figure, the Lord of Misrule. A common peasant would be chosen to act as a mock king for the duration of the festivities, presiding over the feasting and games, and encouraging a certain level of chaos and misbehavior. This carnivalesque atmosphere created an even wider window for playful interaction. But even amidst the joy and apparent freedom, the ever-present surveillance continues. Your parents are watching. Her parents are watching. The village elders and the priest are all watching. They are looking for a good potential match, but they are also watching for any behavior that crosses the line. A conversation that lasts too long, a touch that seems too familiar, a couple that wanders too far from the firelight. All of this is noted, and there will be consequences later. Social historians continue to debate the true function of these festivals. Were they a genuine, bottom-up expression of folk culture and communal joy? A necessary safety valve that allowed the peasantry to release the immense pressures of their lives? Or were they a more calculated, top-down form of social control, a bread and circuses strategy, encouraged by the church and the nobility to keep the populace happy and to reinforce the very social structures that the celebration seemed to temporarily subvert? For you, the answer is much simpler. This festival is a rare and precious gift. It is a day of good food, of strong ale, of music, and of laughter. It is a moment to feel a part of something larger than your own family, to feel the shared heartbeat of the entire community. And most importantly, it is your one fleeting chance to connect with another person, to share a dance and a smile, and to hope that this small public spark might one day be approved by your families and allowed to grow into the warm, steady flame of a shared life. The chaotic joy of the festival is over. The music has faded, the great fire has died down to embers, and the village has returned to its relentless rhythm of labor. But for you, something has changed. That brief, supervised dance, that fleeting moment of shared eye contact across the crowded green, was noted. Your father saw it. Her father saw it. A quiet, informal conversation has taken place over a fence post, and the match has been deemed suitable. Now begins the strange, slow, and deeply practical process that passes for courtship in your world. This is Peasant Romance, a love story written not in poetry, but in the language of labor, livestock, and survival. Your getting to know you phase involves watching your future husband fix a wobbly cartwheel. If the wheel stays on, he's a keeper. It's a very practical vetting process. You do not go on dates. You do not take long, romantic walks alone. Instead, your courtship is a period of supervised, cooperative labor. Your two families begin to share tasks. Her father might ask you to come and help him re-thatch a section of his byre roof. This is not a casual request. It is a test. As you work alongside him, he is watching you. Are you strong? Do you work steadily? Without complaint? Do you know your way around an axe and a rope? He is assessing your value as a future son-in-law, your capacity as a provider. At the same time, your future bride is likely sent to your family's cottage to help your mother with the brewing or the spinning. You watch her from the corner of your eye as you come in from the fields. Are her hands skilled and quick? Is the ale she brews strong and clear? Does she have a good, calm temperament? You are both on display, your respective skills being judged and evaluated. This is the mainstream historical reality of the gendered division of labor. Your value is in the fields, and hers is in the management of the household. A successful marriage requires excellence on both sides. Your relationship is built on a solid foundation of shared chores and the mutual understanding that if one of you slacks off, you'll both probably starve. It's a great motivator for keeping the romance alive. In this world of practical assessment, romantic gifts are not frivolous or poetic. They are demonstrations of your worth. You do not bring her a bouquet of flowers, which would wilt and die. You show your affection with a gift of utility. He shows his love by leaving a perfect turnip on your porch. It's the medieval equivalent of a dozen roses, except you can eat it, which frankly makes it a better gift. You might spend a morning in the woods, not composing a sonnet, but carefully chopping and stacking a perfect, uniform pile of firewood. You carry it to her family's cottage and leave it by the door. This gift says more than any poem. It says, I am a hard worker. I am a good provider. With me, your daughter will be warm in the winter. In return, she does not write you a secret, passionate letter. She might take your torn tunic, the one you ripped on a branch, and mend it with stitches that are impossibly small, neat, and strong. She returns it to you, clean and repaired. This gift says, I am skillful and diligent. I am a capable manager of a household. With me, you will not go about in rags. These are the love letters of the peasantry, written in the language of firewood and thread. Over the weeks and months of this slow, public courtship, a genuine affection can begin to grow. It is a quiet, sturdy plant, nurtured not by grand declarations, but by small, repeated acts of mutual support and respect. It is found in the way you help her lift a heavy bucket of water from the well without being asked. It is in the way she brings you a jug of cool ale when you are sweating under the midday sun in the fields. It is in a shared look of bone-weary exhaustion and quiet satisfaction at the end of a long day of harvesting together. This is the soil in which your love grows, a love based on the profound intimacy of a shared struggle. This period of courtship is often formalized by a betrothal, but you are still not permitted to be alone. You might be allowed to walk home from church together on a Sunday, but your families will be trailing a respectable 10 paces behind. Their presence a constant, silent chaperone. The physical intimacy of your relationship is a subject of intense scrutiny and strict prohibition. In some, mostly later rural cultures, a quirky custom known as bundling would arise to navigate this problem. A courting couple, to save firewood and for a chance at privacy, might be allowed to spend the night in the same bed, but they would be fully clothed and separated by a solid wooden bundling board placed down the middle. This practice, a strange combination of intimacy and enforced chastity, highlights the constant tension between human desire and the rigid moral codes of the community. Anthropologists and social historians continue to debate the true emotional landscape of a peasant marriage. Was the bond that formed between you and your partner truly love in the modern sense, an emotion based on deep personal connection and romantic attraction? Or was it more accurately a form of deep, functional partnership, a bond forged from mutual dependency, respect for each other's skills, and the shared, all-consuming goal of survival, with the idea of romantic love being a largely irrelevant luxury? The truth is likely something that the vocabulary of a future age cannot properly capture. Your connection is not one of dramatic passion, but of quiet, resilient strength. You have seen your partner at their most exhausted, most dirty, most stressed. You have worked alongside them, suffered alongside them, and survived alongside them. You know, their character not from what they say, but from what they do. And you have chosen, or rather, your families have chosen, and you have agreed to face the rest of your hard lives together. In your world, there is no greater or more profound declaration of love than that. The quiet, sturdy affection of a peasant couple, a love built on a foundation of shared labor and mutual respect, is a testament to the power of partnership. It is a love that works within the system, sanctioned by family and blessed by the community. But what happens when the heart refuses to be so practical? What happens when a passionate, all-consuming love collides with the iron wall of a pre-arranged political marriage? For the nobility, whose marriages are the very sinews of power, to choose love over duty is not just a personal decision. It is an act of rebellion, a scandal that can ignite a family war. This is the story of the elopement. Eloping for love is the medieval equivalent of quitting your high-powered corporate job to open an artisanal goat cheese farm. It's a bold, romantic move that will likely end in financial ruin and the fury of your parents. It is a declaration that your personal desire is more important than your family's honor, your political alliances, and the stability of the entire social order. In a world built on duty, it is the ultimate crime of selfishness. Let us imagine you are a young noblewoman, the daughter of a powerful duke. Since you were a child, you have been betrothed to an old and powerful earl, a cruel and ambitious man whose alliance your father needs to secure his northern border. It is a sensible, strategic match that will make your family stronger. It is also a life sentence of misery for you. But in your father's court, there is a young knight. He is the second son of a minor baron, a man with no land and no prospects. But he is handsome, chivalrous, and you have fallen desperately, secretly in love. You know that your father would never approve. Your love is an impossibility. So, you decide to turn it into an undeniable fact. You and your knight plan to elope. The planning is a terrifying conspiracy, a series of whispered conversations in shadowed alcoves with your most trusted lady-in-waiting. A stable boy is bribed with a precious silver coin to have 2 fast horses ready by a forgotten side gate. A route is mapped, a desperate flight to a distant castle owned by a sympathetic aunt, or to a remote chapel where a priest might be persuaded to perform a secret ceremony. The night of the escape is a nightmare of suspense. Dressed in the dark, simple cloak of a servant, you slip out of your chambers, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. You creep through the silent, torch-lit corridors of the castle, past sleeping guards, every creak of a floorboard a thunderclap of potential discovery. You meet your knight in the stables, the warm, animal smell of the place a strange comfort. You ride out into the cold, moonlit darkness, not daring to look back. Your romantic escape has become a desperate flight for your lives. Your goal is to be married, and quickly. The church, in its effort to control the sacrament of marriage, has created a crucial loophole. This is a mainstream historical fact. The doctrine of consent, formalized by the church, states that the only absolute requirement for a valid marriage is the free consent of the 2 individuals, while bans, parental approval, and a priest's blessing are the proper way. A simple exchange of vows between a man and a woman, made in the present tense. I take you to be my husband, I take you to be my wife, could be considered a binding, indissoluble marriage in the eyes of God. This is your hope. If you can exchange those vows and consummate the marriage, it becomes incredibly difficult. though not impossible, for even the most powerful duke or bishop to undo it. After a few days of hard riding, you find a small, remote chapel with an elderly priest who, through a combination of pity and a pouch of your lover's last remaining coins, agrees to marry you. In the dim light of a humble church, with only your loyal lady-in-waiting as a witness, you exchange the sacred vows. You are now, in the eyes of God, man and wife. You have created your irreversible fact, but the world of men is not so easily swayed. When your absence is discovered back at the castle, the fallout is catastrophic. Your father is not heartbroken. He is consumed by a cold, black fury. His alliance with the powerful Earl is shattered. His word has been broken. He has been publicly humiliated by his own daughter. The jilted Earl is equally enraged, his pride wounded. This personal insult could easily become a casus belli, a legitimate reason to raise his army and declare war on your father's lands. The main consequence of your elopement is that two very powerful, very angry old men with armies might decide to redraw the map of the kingdom over their hurt feelings. It really raises the stakes of a relationship. Armed riders are sent out to hunt you down, not to welcome you home, but to drag you back in disgrace. Your lover will be thrown into a dungeon or hanged for his presumption. You will be locked away in a convent for the rest of your life. Your scandalous rebellion erased from the family history. Your family will appeal to the bishop, claiming your knight coerced you, that you were not of sound mind, that the secret ceremony was invalid. The threat of excommunication, a spiritual death sentence that would cast you out of the Christian world, hangs over you. Historians continue to debate how often these dramatic elopements actually occurred. Are the famous romantic tales of lovers on the run, so popular in the literature of your time, a reflection of a common reality? Or were they exceedingly rare and almost always doomed to failure, with the surviving stories being the dramatic exceptions that simply prove the rule of absolute family control? For you, huddled with your new husband in a safe house, listening for the sound of approaching hoofbeats, the odds are not in your favor. But there is a slim path to a different kind of ending. If you can evade capture, if your influential aunt grants you protection, if the marriage is proven to be consummated, then your families might be forced into a reluctant acceptance. To avoid a devastating and costly war, a new, tense negotiation will begin. Your father might have to pay a massive indemnity to the jilted Earl to soothe his wounded honor. He may publicly disown you, cutting you off from your inheritance and your family. But he might, grudgingly, accept the marriage as a fact. Your father might eventually accept your marriage for love. This acceptance mostly involves him shouting at you slightly less and demanding your new, poor husband provide him with free military service for the rest of his life. It's his start. You have won your love, the great, passionate, all-consuming prize for which you risked everything. But in doing so, you have lost your family, your fortune, and your place in the world you know. You have traded a life of luxurious, dutiful misery for a life of impoverished, loving uncertainty. It is the ultimate rebellion, a radical declaration of the self in a world where the self is supposed to be subordinate to the family, the community, and the will of God. The scandalous, rebellious act of the eloping noble is a testament to a love that defies the rigid social order, a love that is willing to trade fortune and family for freedom. It is the ultimate rebellion against the world of men. But what if one were to rebel against the world of God? What happens when love blossoms in a place meticulously designed to extinguish all earthly desire? To find our final and perhaps most surprising story of medieval romance, we must travel beyond the castle walls and into the quiet, sacred heart of the cloister. You are a monk. You have taken the three great vows: poverty, obedience, and, most importantly, chastity. You have renounced the world of the flesh to dedicate your life to prayer, labor, and the contemplation of the divine. Your days are governed by the strict, silent rhythm of the rule of Saint Benedict, the tolling of the bells for the 8 daily offices, the long hours of work in the scriptorium or the fields, the communal meals eaten in silence. Your life is a fortress engineered to keep the chaos of human desire at bay. You've taken a vow of chastity, poverty, and obedience. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, you suppose. The heart, it turns out, is not great at following monastic rules. Not everyone in the cloister is there because of a fervent, undeniable calling from God. For a second son with no hope of inheritance, the church is a respectable career path. For a daughter from a noble family that cannot afford another dowry, the convent is a safe and honorable alternative to a poor marriage. The monastery is filled with ordinary people, with intelligent, passionate, and lonely hearts. And so, it happens. Perhaps you meet during a supervised, formal meeting between your monastery and a neighboring convent. Perhaps you only hear her voice, a soaring, beautiful thing, during a joint service in the cathedral. She is a nun, a bride of Christ, as sworn to chastity as you are. To love her is a violation of your most sacred promise. And yet, you cannot help it. How do you communicate a love that is, by its very nature, a mortal sin? You cannot speak of it openly. You cannot exchange the playful tokens of courtly lovers. You must use the only language that is permitted to you, the only language that fills your world, the language of God. Your love letter is a 5-page theological treatise on the nature of divine grace, with a lot of footnotes about her beautiful eyes. It's a very highbrow approach to flirting. You write to her not of her physical beauty, but of the way her piety and grace are a reflection of the Virgin Mary's. You do not write of your desire for her, but of your deep spiritual longing to have your two souls be joined in a shared devotion to God. You discuss complex points of Scripture, but you find yourself drawn to the Song of Solomon, with its lush, allegorical poetry of love. The entire letter is a complex and beautiful code, a declaration of earthly passion disguised as a discussion of heavenly devotion. The famous, tragic love letters between the 12th century scholar Peter Abelard and his brilliant student Eloise, much of which were written after they had both taken holy orders, are the ultimate mainstream historical example of this kind of theological romance. This correspondence is a dangerous game. Your letters are passed secretly, perhaps through a sympathetic lay servant who works in both houses, or a kindly old friar who understands the complexities of the human heart. The letters might lead to even more perilous acts: a secret meeting, a whispered conversation in the monastery garden at dusk, hidden among the herbs and apple trees, a fleeting moment of shared presence in a forgotten corner of the chapel. Each stolen moment is a terrifying risk. The consequences of discovery are severe. For the eloping nobles, the risk was social and political ruin. For you, the risk is spiritual damnation. To be caught would mean a harsh and humiliating punishment from your abbot or her abbess, public confession, flogging, months of solitary confinement on a diet of bread and water, or even being sent in disgrace to a stricter, more remote monastery. But worse than that is the internal torment, the knowledge that you have broken your sacred vow, that you have betrayed God for human love. Getting caught means flogging and eternal damnation. It really makes you reconsider whether sending that poem about the Song of Solomon was a good idea. But you'll probably do it again next week. These forbidden romances were a known, if unspoken, reality of monastic life. Some communities, known as double monasteries, housed both monks and nuns in close, though strictly segregated, proximity, creating more opportunities for such attachments to form, much to the consternation of church reformers. Historians who study the rich and often emotional writings from medieval monasteries continue to debate the true nature of these passionate correspondences. Was this language of spiritual longing always a code for a suppressed earthly romance? Or was it sometimes a genuine and sanctioned form of spiritual friendship, where two devout souls used the only language they had, the language of love, to describe their shared journey towards God? For you, huddled in your cold cell, rereading her latest letter, the distinction feels meaningless. The love you feel is total. It is a love for her mind, for her spirit, and, yes, for the beautiful, forbidden human being that she is. The fact that these feelings could blossom at all, in the most restrictive and heavily policed environment imaginable, is a profound testament to the irrepressible power of the human heart. It proves that no wall, whether it is made of stone or of sacred vows, can ever truly extinguish the need for connection, for intimacy, for love. And so, our journey through the complex and often contradictory world of medieval romance comes to its end. We have seen that love was a business transaction, a poetic game, a dangerous rebellion, and a forbidden prayer. Now, let the echoes of that distant world begin to fade. Let go of the cold calculations of the dowry, the dramatic sighs of the courtly lover, and the fearful whispers of the secret meeting. The passions and prohibitions of that long-ago time are not yours to carry. You can feel the intricate rules and the heavy surveillance of that society dissolve, leaving only the quiet freedom and soft comfort of your own bed. The story is over. The search for love and connection is a timeless human journey, but for tonight, your part in it is done. Allow the gentle quiet of your room to be your only companion now. Feel the weight of your own body settling, your mind growing still and peaceful, as the last remnants of the story drift away like smoke, leaving only a clear and open path to a deep and truly restful sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.